die Speerspitze der holländischen Radbewegung, sagen wir es einfach so. Das Thema heißt Bürgerbeteiligung, soll es in Deutschland ja auch hier und da geben. Immer wenn es um nichts geht, darf der Bürger mitreden. Das ist so eine goldene Regel. Ne? Wie haben die das in Utrecht oder überhaupt in den Niederlanden gemacht? Das wird uns Saskia Kluit erklären. Schön, dass sie da ist. Herzlich willkommen.
Dankeschön. And that is about my German, so I'll change to English, and so if you want to have the translation hats on, this might be the right time. Burkhard asked me to tell you about Utrecht, and I really do not want to put you off by telling about Utrecht. So the things I'm going to show you has been a lot of hard work, has not been done in one day, and I am really very convinced that this can be done everywhere. So you have to think about that a little bit. And I think it can be done everywhere because Utrecht has not always been a bicycle-friendly city. I will show you that. I've been living there since about 2000. It's a lovely city. This is me. I'm the CEO of the Fietsersbond and also president of the Dutch Cycling Embassy. And here is where Utrecht is. It's in the middle of the country. And as you can see, it is surrounded by not supercycle highways, but normal highways. It is also a hometown of the biggest railway station in the country, which has more travelers than our national airport. It has been a city with a lot of mobility inwards and outwards. And what you can learn from Utrecht is when you plan for cars and traffic, that's what you'll get. And when you plan for people and places, this is what you get. So I believe when you talk about cycling and promoting cycling, you need to talk about this, and not necessarily about infrastructure. Some numbers. About 125,000 people move up and down the city center on a bicycle each day. We have about 300,000 inhabitants in total. And our busiest cycling route is also the national busiest cycling route, has 37,000 cyclists. The norm for a busy cycle route in the Netherlands is 5,000, our maximum norm. So Utrecht has had a lot of problems. Well, this is for the weekend, I think, to read by. If you look, the Dutch are not the super kings of cycling. We do really short trips on a bicycle, a couple of kilometers. You can see that here. Cyclists do a lot on 7.5 kilometers and less. And when it goes up the distance, you'll see the cycling percentage decreasing. That is not a problem. There's actually a big opportunity to improve cycling with e-bikes, because then the distances people want to cycle increase, and you can do more on a bicycle, and you can do less with a car. If you look at this little statistics, this is 10 cities in Europe, and their bicycle counts. And what you see in number 11, look, that's that one. This is where we started measuring, and we owe that to a German. It was Herr Vortrag who made a plan for the mobility of Utrecht. And he said, well, we want to have a more modern inner city. We need to have more cars in. We have to do it like the Americans. He was not alone in that. Actually, worldwide, people were doing it. But then he found out there were a lot of cyclists in Utrecht, so he said, maybe we should count them. And that's why we know how many people cycled in the 50s. But as you see, when the plan Vortrag was being done, the bicycle usage dropped immensely. And this you see everywhere. So people have been cycling in Utrecht, but it has been better before. And as you see, we hardly increased that percentage in most of the years until 2010. So in the 70s, Vortrag took some time to get his plans to the street. So in the 70s, we were going the way everybody was going. So this is an area, this is one of our squares. We made it a parking place. This is another square. We made it also a parking place. And this was our medieval waterway, and we made it into a 6-way motorway, which ran through the city center. Here you see our national shopping area, Hoog Catharijne. It was the most modern, beautiful, very popular shopping mall in the Netherlands in the 70s. Everybody liked to come there. In the 90s, it had deteriorated and nobody wanted to shop there anymore, and we had a big problem in Utrecht with a big shopping mall without shops. And this is another area. This is the entrance to the National Railway Station. You see the quality of space is not really wonderful. You don't see them in this picture, but there was also a lot of drug-related problems, criminal problems, a lot of bicycles being stolen in this area too. But this was also the bicycle parking area. This is quite similar to cities in Europe now, even when you now exit Mannheim station or Oberhausen, which I spent some time yesterday because I got out of the train too early. You see also a bicycle parking like this. Okay, so what changed? We have been building quite a lot of houses. If you see in the 1920s, 1940s, 1980s, and now the 2000s, we have been building a lot of houses in Utrecht. We've been growing really hard. And of course, the EU made some really good environmental regulations, which we actually asked for as the Netherlands. And these were the results. You can see Utrecht here, and you can see Utrecht there. And that are the noise pollution and air pollution maps. We were not getting there, and the EU threatened to stop our building projects because we were not making the norm. That is really helpful, actually. So if you have a pollution problem, never waste a good crisis. So they had to stop building, and it made they had to make some really, really hard choices. They had to broaden the highway or do something else. People did not like that. They also wanted to make a new inner city project. And they came with maps like this, and the people didn't like that too. Because where are the people, was the question. So a kind of the whole sphere in the town started to change. People started to protest, started to changing their votes. We can see that now worldwide. And the central theme was quality of life. We didn't want all those cars coming in. We didn't want all those tall buildings coming in, and we didn't know where we needed to go as people who were living there. So suddenly we had a populist party winning the election. They came from nowhere, and they had about 14 seats in our city council. And as you see, this is the Socialist Party, these are the Green Party, and this is the Liberal Conservatives. So there was a majority who could start realizing a different way of looking at city building. So there started the great transformation, actually in a populist rising. In 2010, that was upped, because the Greens became the biggest party in the city. And they won it because they fought really hard against a new carway to the city center. So I was in the negotiation committee for the Greens at that time, and we just kicked out the new road. But then we did have a problem because, you know, people needed to get into the city. So we started also a new public transport plan and also a new bicycle plan. And it was quite simple, actually. This was the new bicycle plan. And it was concised out of 5 routes. Of course, Utrecht had really okay bicycle network. So I think that where Utrecht started in 2010 is about at the big jump of Martha told about earlier. We do have a network, we do have facilities, we do have safe cycling, but it's not at the heart of our politicians and our people who make the policy. So these are the 5 routes. We made them from east to west, we made them from north to south, and this is the new city area, and we wanted to have a lot of cycling routes from there to the other side where the university is, that's there. And we were looking for dedicated infrastructure. I'm using the word dedicated because it doesn't have to be separate, it could be different, but dedicated is very important. I will show you some examples which were being done in this program to show you what the difference is and what the difference became before and after. So here you see the area where two cycling routes met. This area was all car-oriented and bicycle riders coincided with the cars, and the same was on this area. So what they did, they painted it red. Actually, it was red tarmac. And they made it car-free except for the people who live in that area. And if you look at the quality that brings, this is how it looks today. And it's exactly the same width as it was before. They only changed the color and the designation for cars. This is the bridge, which used to be combined, car and bicycles, and now it's only for bicycles. The second thing they did, because you cannot kick out cars everywhere, I know some people would like that, but you cannot do that everywhere, we made bicycle streets. Bicycle streets are a very good instrument to promote cycling, but they only work if there are not too much bicycles. And if people are willing to adapt their space and their pace and their speed when they are in a car. So we say about 3,500 cars a day, this is the maximum. After that, you need to have separated bicycle infrastructure. So we did that in this piece. The pictures are not so good, but that's because it's been developed recently and I didn't have a good picture of the new situation. This was the old situation, and this is the new one, the bicycle street. So what happens is that the car naturally stays behind the cyclists, and it's being invited to do so by making a cobblestone width in the bicycle street. Another example of a bicycle street is this one. It's also an area where people are living here, and there's a waterway there. It used to be just an ordinary 50-kilometer road, and they changed it into a 30-kilometer road and painted it red. Actually, it's red tarmac. We're not very fond of paint in the Netherlands, but it's the same principle. Another example is the Mali single. This is a very exciting one, because my local branch will tell you it's not working very well, because it's too busy. And the interesting thing is that the people in the city itself, they really, really like it. So I'm really curious what time will bring for this situation. As you can see, they, here it was a bicycle path not separated. It's still not separated, but they made it much wider, and they also made a walking path here. So by the look of it, it's got a completely different look and feel. And the cars are supposed to feel that they are guests. But there are more than 3,500 cars in this area, so what will happen? Another important thing in the Netherlands is that once you have a lot of bicycle riders, and that's not only the Netherlands, that's any part of your infrastructure or network which gets a lot of traffic, you get problems with traffic lights and obstacles. Traffic lights make that people have to wait a really long time, but the obstacles make that people die. I say that again, about half the deaths of the Netherlands are being from people hitting themselves. Not hitting a car, but hitting a pole, hitting something in the road, or just getting off the road and into the grass and falling over. So when you are successful, and I think like Mannheim, 18%, I'm pretty sure you have areas where you might start thinking about removing obstacles and traffic lights too. What does it look like? It looked like this. This is the new situation, and this is the old one. This pole is, of course, very poor visible at night. And also, it's very, very small, a very small area here between. The problem is also a result from people cycling longer when they're older on e-bikes. When you ride an e-bike, you have the possibility to keep on cycling when normally you would have stopped already. The problem is that your hearing and your sight is deteriorating every day a little bit, so nobody knows you are seeing less. But in reality, you sometimes don't see enough. So the government needs to make safe infrastructure. So this is the removing of obstacles. When it becomes really interesting is when you combine certain infrastructural developments with cycling infrastructure. So this was a big problem in Utrecht. We have the railway tracks going up and down, a little bit like this. And it's of course a barrier for cycling in Utrecht. And they made new bridges and new tunnels. And they didn't pay 1 cent of that out of the cycling budget. They just made sure that when they did a really big reconstruction, the cyclists were in the manual for winning the tender procedure. Do you do tender procedures here in Germany? Do you know? The European tender procedures are, you put a project into the market and you say, this is the budget, this is the project, and this is the, what we want. If you put on the last list categories, they called subcategories, let them put in the best plan for cycling. And then you get stuff like this. This has been paid for by the railway budget. It looks nice, huh?
Absolutely.
And another example, I think, is we get a lot. We cannot do that here because our city is really old. And this was a bridge that was already 100 years old. And before, this was just, you know, this little wall just went here, from there to there. And interestingly enough, you can redo an old bridge and making a little tunnel underneath it. And it looks lovely, and it's now a big improvement for the network because you had to go up that bridge, wait for the traffic to pass, wait for your space between the cars, and then cross, and then on the other side you had to take your bicycle with a little stairs down. So, and this is actually one of those parts to the, one of the routes to the new city. So for those people, it's a big improvement. Here is something interesting. We had a lot of political rows about this little bridge. We wanted a bridge here, and it's not even on the 5 highway of the 5 routes. And the row was that there was a school on the other side of the route. So what happened after a lot of discussion and political arguments and bad newspaper articles, they made a new bicycle bridge and the school in one. So here is the bridge, this is the school, and there you go on your cycle route down. It looks like this as a bridge, and we named it after Daphne Schippers. She's our national and Olympic champion in running. I don't know whether you know her, but we are very proud of her. Redesign with placemaking is also very important. If people, like Marta said, if people don't feel happy or comfortable, they will not come. So one of the issues is not only having routes, but also having places where people feel comfortable. This is, I showed this picture before. This is our city's medieval square, which used to be a car parking. Now it looks like this. That didn't happen overnight. I mean, it was not like the mayor said, I'm going to kick out the cars in this lovely medieval area of town. But that was a really hard struggle to get that. Another one is this one. I showed this one also before, and it has been redone and looks now like this. So they took out the cars, And they gave more space to pedestrians and cyclists, as you can see here. And now it's really wonderful because every day hundreds of people start walking from the station to the inner city just by using this place. Another example is this one. And this is a very interesting picture. Of course, the car was here illegal, I think, because you're not allowed to drive there with the car. The problem here was the bicycles. There were so many bicycles. People were parking there all the time, and the emergency services were not being able to cross that street anymore. So there you are as a local Fietsersbond, and people start complaining that you are a hazard for the safety and environmental organizations in your city. So that is, image-wise, a big problem. So what happened is really interesting, that the local community asked for solutions. And they got a lot of solutions, and now there are 2 underground parking. There's parkings where you can park your bicycle, but there's also a really restricted policy on the street itself. So they cut away every bicycle that is being parked illegally there. If you park there, it's gone. And now it looks like this. So if you look from a perspective of people, sometimes even in the Netherlands, and I think worldwide, there are more and more places which have the same problems. You always need to look for quality of space for people, and not necessarily for quality for bicycles. Another example, which I'm really proud of, is this one. Remember, this was realized about in the 60s, 70s, early 70s. We had a referendum in around 2004, and we decided as a city that we did not think that this was really future-proof use of space in our city. And after some years of discussing it, we changed it. This is when you see the change in progress, and this is how it looks now. Well, this is. So whenever you are in your town and you are looking at areas like this, remember Utrecht, which fixed this in 15 years. All you need to have is support of people. That's all you need. And when you get support of people by not asking them, do you want to ride a bicycle, or do you want to drive your car or park your car, you get this when you ask people, where do you want to live? How do you want to live? We have now a new alderman. She's called Lot van Hooijdonk. If ever you have the chance of meeting her, please grab the chance. She goes into the city and she asks every change she's making, she asks the people not, what about parking? What about your car? She asks, where do you want to live? And there has been no problem yet in cutting back on car parking space, cutting back on accessibility for cars. Well, this was really exciting. I'm going to hit a little bit faster because I got the sign 5 minutes. Well, and one of the most efficient ways of promoting cycling, people enjoying cycling, is improving traffic lights. Utrecht just asked people, and you can do this as a local community, you can do this as a local ADFC, ask people, where do you wait forever and ever? Well, people got about a couple of thousand people responded to this, and now they're putting down traffic lights. And surprise, surprise, nobody died, nobody got hurt, and we go a lot faster through the city. Another instrument is the bicycle parking instrument. You can do that at any place. The big chance for promoting cycling is actually promoting bicycle parking at stations or at tram areas. We have a big problem with that in Utrecht. We need 33,000 spots. Here you can see them in the whole station area. We are building now 22. So we're not doing good enough, but and that's when somebody started saying maybe we should do bicycle sharing in the Netherlands. And I mean, talk to Randy too, because he's a visionary. he said to me, the first time we met, you know about the Dutch, you know, you're really nice and stuff, but why don't you share your bicycles? So now we're going to do that, Randy. We're going to share bicycles to get more people to the station area. And how does that look in Utrecht? This was the former area. This is how it looks now. You can see, you have to look at this building here to see that it's still there. This is the new entrance to the station area. And if you go into this area, it looks like this. It's an integrated bicycle parking. All paid for, by the way, by the national railway budget. So think about that. And this is the way it looks. At the moment, when you come in, you have to be there before 10, otherwise it's filled up. And it's a really nice exercise for people because, as you see, you have to carry your bicycle up and down, but it's very comfortably, very economically done, so it's no problem. But we also invest in really small bicycle parkings. So this is was a shop that was being empty, so the local community, they put in a bicycle parking, which was really good for the local shop owners. Well, we keep on rock and rolling. We have a new plan, and instead of these 5 routes, this is how it will look for the next 5 years. So as an inhabitant of this town, I'm really, really curious what will be done in the next years. This might be your arguments to help you. Why do we think it's so important? It's economically sound. It's cheap to realize compared to other modes of transport. And we are very, very keen on the healthy urban living theme. So, this is another city, Dutch city. I hope I will see you there. It's Arnhem-Nijmegen. This is actually Nijmegen because they were the bicycle city of this year. So, thank you very much.
Have a seat.